This podcast is part of the Frederick Podcast Network. Learn more at listenfrederick.com.
That's number one. You kind of reset your
Painful, tender to the touch. May also
same shoulder length and the other.
Yeah, and the thing that wasn't healthy was depression, because I was disappointed because my dream had always been to become a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
But when you want to become a doctor, by the way, can I tell you that story about senior year in high school?
Oh, yeah.
So senior year in high school, everything happens around depression. So I was not part of the popular crowd. My friends, you know my friends, Eric and Monty and Kohi and Sid, and they were cool kids. I wasn't. Hopefully someday they'll listen to this. That'll be fun. But I keep in touch with a couple of them still. But I had 4 friends. That was it. I didn't know anybody else. I certainly didn't know any girls. I wanted to know some of the girls, but I didn't. And so I was terrified to ask girls out and everything. I'm a senior now. You know, back then, culturally, you're like, you're an idiot if you don't have a girlfriend, and you're a terrible kid. And so the homecoming dance was coming up, and I didn't have a date. And I'm thinking, I have my driver's license. I'm going to ask a girl out on a date. Now, I'd never asked anybody out on a date before.
Decision.
So I'm terrified. And there was this one girl, and this is so bad. I didn't want to ask the girls that I really liked because I thought I'd be too nervous. So I was like, I'm just going to ask another girl, in my computer science class. Hopefully she's not listening. So I before that, because I'm getting depressed because I just feel like I'm not good enough and socially and awkward and all that stuff. And so I remembered when I would pray, if God, you exist, do this, and he would do it. So I said, God, I haven't prayed like that since I was little, but I'm going to do it again now because I'm really depressed and I'm going through a tough time. This is awful. If you really exist, make her say yes when I ask her out. And so then I go and ask her out. After science, computer science, second period, we all come in the hallway, and every kid goes to their locker to change their books for the next class. And I walked up to her, tapped her on the shoulder. She turned around. She looks really surprised that I'm actually going to talk to her. And I said, would you like to go to the homecoming dance with me? And she turned around and walked away.
Oh.
Didn't say no, so I didn't get rejected. But she turned around.
I love that you did not classify that as rejection. That is very sweet.
I've never been rejected. But so I'm standing in the middle of the hallway, and I looked around, and every eye is on me. I guess they heard it and they saw it. And I look around, and some of them kindly just turned back around, went into their locker to do stuff. The jocks and the popular kids pointed and laughed. And they're like, ha, ha, ha. And I didn't show it, but I was devastated, extremely depressed. And that started this downward spiral of just bad thoughts, bad actions, bad behaviors. I didn't do anything illegal or any of that stuff. But I remember thinking, because I had my driver's license, I'd be like, you know what? I could just go across that yellow line and be done. So, but teenagers do that stuff. And I didn't have a relationship with my parents where I could talk to them. I didn't talk to my parents. I just didn't. I kept it to myself. I wasn't going to tell my friends.
Right.
So it was just, these were thoughts. And basically it's like a child throwing a tantrum. I kept fighting with God. God, you don't love me. You don't care about me. You're not listening to me. You didn't do it. I thought you existed. Maybe you don't exist. Just like bad conversations with God. And then one day my mother had a daycare center, and around between 5 and 6:30 p.m., parents would come one by one and pick up their kids. And she had anywhere between, 5 and 7 kids, I guess. And my aunt helped her too, and that was their business. That's how that's how she paid for expenses in our household. And one of the parents came to pick up their kid, and my mom said to the other mom, he's been throwing a lot of tantrums, and when he does that, I don't give him what he wants, because then I'm just going to end up reinforcing that behavior. And I go, that's me.
Holy crap.
I've been throwing a tantrum, and the reason God's not giving me what I want is because now he's trying to tell me, I don't want you behaving that way. And if I give you what you want, then you're going to keep doing it. And you're going to keep saying you don't exist. And if you exist, do this. It's like, this makes perfect sense. What an idiot I've been. So I'm sitting on the couch. All the kids left. The daycare emptied out. Mom's in the kitchen cooking. And I'm sitting on the couch in front of TV in our little townhouse. And I don't know what's on TV, but I'm sitting on the couch. It's fall time because that's when the homecoming dance is. Fall, and I've been doing this for weeks of being depressed and having these conversations. And I said, God, I get it. I'm sorry. I'm not going to throw a tantrum anymore. In fact, you know what? I don't need to be dating girls right now. I need to focus on getting into college, becoming a doctor. That's the big dream. Once I'm a doctor, I'm sure I'll be able to find a girlfriend. So we're just going to let it go. And I'm very sorry for behaving the way I did. So I'm not a believer in the true God yet, but
Right.
his grace, I guess, he listened, and I said, God, I want to know if you'll forgive me because I truly am sorry. And I promise you I'm not going to do it again. So if I turn away from this kind of behavior and how I've been talking to you, will you forgive me? And can you give me a sign that you're going to forgive me? The minute I ask for a sign. So I'm the TV's in front of me. The kitchen is here. There's a wall here. The dining room is here. I can look into the dining room. There was a mirror that hung on the wall behind the dining table, and that mirror just slid down the wall and broke. The minute I asked for a sign. The windows weren't open. There was no wind. There was nothing happening. There was no earthquake. Nothing. That's the only thing that happened. So I'm thinking, this is fantastic. That's my sign. So I walk over there. My mom walks over, looks at the mirror. She's like, mirror breaks. That means 7 years of bad luck. I said, no, I promise you this one, there's no bad luck with this one. I promise you. And she's like, how do you know? I said, I just know. I didn't share that story with anybody till 5-6 years later. But I went upstairs and I thanked God and I said, this is amazing. And I kind of feel today looking at it, I was thinking, we use a mirror to look at ourselves, right? So when you look at you, you're going to see your flaws. You're going to see lack. You're going to see limitations. When you stop looking at yourself and start looking up, you see infinite possibilities and power. You see grace. You see mercy. You see love, true love. And so I think God chose the mirror to break, for that to be a life lesson for the rest of my life, that stop trying to do it on your own.
Right.
Let me help you.
Right.
But let's do it together.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to do it either. I don't think God wants that, because God doesn't want to do things that you can do for yourself. But he'll always do things that you can't do for yourself. Right. But you got to ask him, and he loves to partner with you and be the senior partner in whatever you choose. And so that moment really changed everything. And I didn't ask any girls out the rest of my high school years. I was a senior already, and I got into George Washington University. I went to the senior prom, and Eric was my date. So, but yeah, I went with friends. All my other friends all had dates, but we all went as a group, and it was okay. And then went to college, and I busted my tail through college too. Got good grades, because if I had time, I could do well. But if I didn't have time, I couldn't finish tests. And if you want to go to med school, you have to pass a test called the MCAT, which is standardized. And there's a science section. That's like biology and organic chemistry, which I rocked. I think I was in the 85th percentile. And there's another section, because I was a chemistry major. It was chemistry and physics. And that one I was in like the 90th percentile. So I did really well in those. Then there's an English section where you have to read passages and answer questions. I couldn't get through the passages. I got through maybe, halfway through the test, and time ran out. I guessed on all the answers. And even the half the test that I could get through, I couldn't read fast enough to understand it, because there was too much pressure. So I did awful. I think I was like 20th percentile in the nation for that section. And so because of that, no medical school wanted me. And so when my senior year in college started, and all my friends had been to interviews. They had their acceptance letters in their hands. I was, sitting there not knowing what I'm going to do next year.
Right. So
And
here you are, all this hard work, all this effort to then have
no girlfriend.
no girls, to have your dreams crushed.
Yeah.
Like that's like having the carpet pulled out from under you. Like, what do you do then? So it seems like that's when that cycle of depression, right, seeps back into to your life, and it doesn't go so well.
Oh yeah, I stopped going to class. So I had a roommate, Justin, and he liked to drink. He was graduating early. He was a smart kid. I mean,
he knew like multiple languages, right?
Yeah, he had done a year abroad in Japan, and he spoke Japanese. He spoke something else, and he was going to graduate early, and he was going to go into, I think, international affairs. And anyways, he had a bright future, and his father was very wealthy. He was anchorman for NBC in Philadelphia. And so he had, I guess he had a credit card, and he liked to drink. So I decided I'm just going to go drinking with Justin every night. And he didn't have to really do well because it was his last semester. This was my second to last semester. But, I figured I'm never going to get to medical school anyways. So I don't need to go to class anymore. So 2 weeks into September of my senior year, I stopped going to class. I'd go drink every night, all night, through the night. And we'd come home in the morning, sleep all day, and go drink again at night. And we did
Very
that
productive life.
for 2 months. For 2 months, drinking every night. And one day, it was November now, and we were at a bar. We walked in. Within 10 minutes, we had a $90 tab. I mean, it was like we were drinking that fast. This is 1995. So that's 30 years ago. So 30 years ago, 30 years ago, $90 was more alcohol than it is today, especially with today's prices and inflation and everything else. But so we were drinking a lot, and then Justin took a shot, slammed the shot glass on the counter, and he said, "A real man can hold his liquor." And as soon as I heard that, something changed in me. And I ran through some images in my mind. I go, okay, a real man. I'm thinking John Wayne, like superheroes in movies, like I don't know, Clint Eastwood, Dirty Harry. Like I go, okay, a real man doesn't stutter and slur his speech and stumble through the streets and not be able to walk straight and
doesn't remember what happens the next day.
Yeah, a real man's not gonna throw up in public because he's drinking too much, and most importantly, a real man doesn't walk away from his dream. Like if it's a real dream, why are you walking away from it? Why don't you try again?
Right.
You could have applied again, but now you're throwing everything away. And I'm going through all these images of what a real man is, and I go, I'm not that.
Right.
And a real man, it's not about how much liquor you can hold. So I walked out of the bar, and I went back to the dorms, and I slept that night. And the next day I went to class for the first time in like over 2 months. And the professors, I mean, when you're a senior chemistry major, well, as a freshman, your classes have like 100 students in them. So no one knows if you're there, you're not there. But then when you're senior chemistry major, my classes were advanced experimental organic chemistry.
You have like 12 people, 8 people.
Yeah, that class had 4 students and 2 professors.
Oh my gosh.
Instrumental analytical chemistry had 12 students. Physical chemistry had like 13 students. Descriptive inorganic chemistry. They know when you're not there. They know when you're not there. Yeah. So I'm sitting there, and all the students are looking at me. The professor,
who is this?
Professors are all looking at me. After class ends, I by the way, nothing makes sense because like we're 2.5 months into the semester. I have no idea what's going on. I walk up to the professor and I go, I missed a few days. He go, yeah, you missed more than that. And I said, I need to catch up. How can I catch up? Can you help me? I'm feeling like I'm back in high school asking teachers, how do I get an A in your class? And every one of them said, no, here's what you do. You drop the class, you retake it next semester because there's no way you're going to catch up. And if you drop the class, you won't have an F on your transcript, on your record. And my GPA was like 3.7 at the time. I was doing really, really well. And and I said to each one of them, I can't drop the class because I'll lose my scholarship. not only do I have to keep your class, I have to get at least a C in your class to keep my scholarship and to get my major, to get my degree and graduate on time. And I cannot afford to do another semester, an extra semester, when I don't have any scholarships. That means I have to do 2 semesters without a scholarship. Can't do it. And so they were like, all right, well, just take the final exam. If you pass the final, I'll make that your final grade. So I was like, all right, they're not going to help me. At least they're letting me take the final.
I mean, that's a pretty big opportunity right
Yeah.
there.
So I packed up my books, packed up my dorm room, and moved out.
What? You don't think you could have done that there with
No.
Justin?
No. So I moved to my mother's house in Gaithersburg, which is that little townhouse where the mirror broke. And I would sit at the dining room table and study from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m.
It's my favorite story.
and sleep for 4 hours. And I slept from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. and get up and do it again. And I did that for a couple of weeks. And then it was Thanksgiving. Day after Thanksgiving, back then was Black Friday. It's Black Friday now too, but it's a whole different kind of Black Friday now than it was in 1995. But it was November 25th, 1995. I got out of bed 6 a.m. and I was so exhausted I could barely walk. 2 weeks of only sleeping 4 hours, studying all day. I still have dyslexia, so it's very, very difficult to study and learn. I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. And I walked into the shower, warm water started hitting me, and I just started crying because I felt really hopeless and worthless and helpless. And so what you do is you pray when you feel that way. And I said, Lord, God, I didn't say Lord. I call him Lord now. So I said, God, I'm not doing well here. And I don't know what to do. I'm feeling very, bad. Can you help me? And more importantly, will you help me? Because I think you can. But will you? And the minute I said that, God reminded me of all those nights where I would come home and Nancy and my mom and my aunt would be studying the Bible. And I would say, no, I don't need that. And I'd go upstairs to my bedroom. But first off, it's a small house. But I really think every time I went up there, they would talk a little louder. So I could hear
They probably
them.
did, knowing them.
And so they would repeat these Bible verses, and they would all practice reading the same verse over and over, and they would tell the stories of Jesus and his birth, the virgin birth, his life, his miracles, his death on a cross, the resurrection, and what you have to do to be saved. And they would just go over those things over and over and over. And I'm upstairs playing video games or studying, but I heard every word. It's like God put a little speaker with a microphone down there, and it was like a baby monitor. It's like it was like they were in the room with me the whole time. I was like, okay, I get it. I heard it. So anyways, that day I'm in the shower, and God reminds me of those nights, and I said, is that what you want? You want me to believe in Jesus? What about all these times where we talked and you answered my prayers? You never said I needed Jesus. I need Jesus now. And, I felt like God said, Amir, it's time you believed because I love you. So I did.
That's nice. Told you we'd get there. I wouldn't be able to keep it dry the whole time.
And I just got down on my knees and prayed and accepted Jesus. And I said, I'm going to promise, I'm going to follow you all the time. But then I did something else, which is like an Iranian thing. I guess maybe it's a Middle Eastern thing. I asked for another sign. Because I was like, God,
I think that's a human thing.
Maybe, but I was like, you gave me the sign. The rain stopped, and the piano teacher didn't show up, and the mirror broke, and it's can you give me another sign?
You're just short of putting a fleece out and asking for it to be dry and then wet.
Exactly. So I asked for a sign. I said, if this is truly what you want, give me a sign today. Something where it's unmistakable that this is exactly what you wanted. But I felt such peace. I knew it was right because I went down after the shower. I went down and opened my books, started studying, and I felt like I could understand things a little better. And it wasn't because my dyslexia was gone; it was still there. But I had so much peace that I truly believed
your anxiety was gone.
Yeah, because I said, well, my eternity is secure. My life is not as important anymore, and whatever happens here is not as important what's going to happen there. And I just took care of the most important thing. I made the most important transaction there is, which is give my life to him, and now it's really his responsibility, and
Right.
whatever he wants, I submit to that will. So there's peace, and I was studying, and that day I decided every hour I'm going to pray for 10 minutes. So I would study for 50 minutes, then pray for 10 minutes, and I did that, and then it was around 10:50. I decided I'm going to go watch TV for 10 minutes instead of praying. And I walked over to the living room, same couch I was sitting on that other time, exactly 4 years prior. Sit on the couch, and I turned on the TV. You know, our TV had like one of those, the cable box had a dial, you know, and those were TVs, they weren't flat screen. So it always took a few seconds for the image to show up. So sometimes you could turn on, you could hear it first, then the image would slowly appear, right? And it was on a channel called TBS. Turner Broadcast Station or something like that. One of TNT and TBS were kind of the same. And it was Black Friday, 10:50 in the morning. A movie was playing. What do I see when the image becomes clear? The whole screen is Jesus' face with the crown of thorns. Turns out it was the movie Ben-Hur.
Ben-Hur, yeah.
And I'd seen the movie before, but not all of it. I'd seen bits and pieces, but I'd never seen the part where Jesus has a cameo. But then he's carrying the cross, and someone tries to give him some water, and the Roman soldier kicks the water out of the guy's hand. Jesus can't get the water, but Jesus looks him in the eye, and the guy goes back to the leper village where his mother and sister were there, and they were cleansed of leprosy. And he knows Jesus healed them. So I was like, this has got to be my sign, right? And I turned the TV off and I prayed and I thanked God. I said, thank you for my sign. Now I'm done. No more signs. And I went back to studying, and I studied 50 minutes, prayed for 10, 50 minutes, prayed for 10. And then it was 1:50 in the afternoon. Prayed for 10 minutes, closed the books, prayed for 10 minutes. Right before 2:00, I said, instead of saying, in the name of Jesus, amen, I didn't say that. I said, hey, God, so I've been praying all day today, 10 minutes every hour. Do you hear every prayer, or do you hear some of the prayers? Do you hear everybody who's praying? There's got to be millions of people praying right now all at the same time. Do you have an answering machine? Do you have an executive assistant? How does this work? Like, how do you hear every single prayer? And the words I specifically used was, every time I call out to you, do you hear me? As soon as I said that, the phone rang. And it was my mom. And she said, I'm over at Nancy's. We're studying the Bible. And Nancy said she needs to talk to you. Here's Nancy. Nancy gets on the phone.
But wait, because you're like, I do not have time for this.
Right.
Your posture with that, like, you get done with prayer, you're like, God, do you hear me?
It's time to
study. And then it's time to study, and your mom calls, and you're actually a little bit annoyed.
Yeah.
And Nancy's a talker.
Yeah.
She's no longer with us now.
I was expecting a big, long conversation.
Right. So you're like, I don't got time for this.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
Okay, now you can proceed.
And because mom always asks, like, did you eat?
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm like, don't worry about it. I got to study. So here's Nancy.
Did you put your socks on?
She didn't even ask me if she can put her on. She just put her on. It's like, oh, no. So Nancy gets on the phone. She didn't say hello.
Which is rare.
She said, Amir, I need to tell you, every time you call out to God, he hears you.
That's huge. And that right there, I think, has been a catalyst in your life. That was like such a huge moment of God meeting you where you were.
Yeah.
And giving you the big answers without you even asking.
Yeah.
And I think when we're in those quiet moments, if we allow him, he will give us those answers.
A couple months ago, November 25th of 2025 was the 30th anniversary of that day.
That's crazy.
So for 30 years, honestly, it's been very easy. I have not doubted. I know beyond the shadow of a doubt.
Yep.
If I call out to God, he hears me. He hears you too. He hears all of us. Yeah. And so anyways, I mean, I ended up passing my classes. Mm-hmm. Some of them I did better on than others. And a whole lot of things came out of that were very beautiful and perfect. I never ended up going to medical school, but I took a year off and then applied to chiropractic school. And I'm just so glad I did, because I I don't want to prescribe medication.
Right.
I don't want to cut people open. I get to move things around on the inside of their bodies without cutting them open, using my hands, laying hands on them, praying for them, and then adjusting them to take pressure off the nerves and get their body to work the way it's supposed to. It's the most beautiful thing. And I always say, I don't work, I adjust.
It's true.
You know, if it wasn't for paperwork, my job would be extremely easy and,
Yeah.
and enjoyable.
Physical, but easy.
So you know, the biggest lesson out of that is, you know, we all have a dream sometimes, and I believe the dreams are put in our hearts by God. But if that dream doesn't come true, it's because He has something better planned for you.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
maybe someday we'll talk about how we met.
Yeah.
And there was a lot that went behind. I think we've been talking way too much, and hopefully they're not bored. But
It was fun to reminisce with you on, and although I wasn't a part of most of those, times in your life, to just get to walk back through those stories with you, is really precious. So
yeah. But
thank
you
you
and I
for
have walked
sharing
through
that.
a lot of miraculous moments in our lives. You know,
have.
like how our children came to be is powerful. How we got through some financial struggles and bankruptcy is amazing. How our businesses survived.
Yeah.
There's so much. There's so many other stories, and God's just been good to us.
Yeah. Every time, every moment. Yeah. It's really a powerful reminder that our beginnings don't define our endings,
Yeah. Hopefully we got 50 more years.
at least. But, God doesn't waste anything. So we need to remember that. So he doesn't waste our pain, our confusion, or our hardest seasons. So I did so good this whole time. I told you before we started this, I said, I'm not going to be able to keep it dry, this whole time. But, to just be reminded of those moments and just how He's just so much greater than everything else. I think that's at the basis of who we are and why we do what we do.
Yeah. I mean, who am I that He would answer the question,
Yeah.
do you hear me?
Yeah.
Not only does He didn't have to say, yes, I hear you.
Oh, yeah.
He could just hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
But that's not His character,
Yeah.
so.
And he used the lady who led my mother to Christ
Right.
to say that to me.
Yeah,
It's perfect.
it is.
You couldn't write that in a movie script.
Mm-mm. No, you couldn't. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So, I think how we should end this is, if you're listening today and your story, you're in the middle of one of those struggles, just take heart and remember that God's still writing your story. He's not done. So that's very important. And we're just so grateful that, you tuned in today and that you are tuning in to our podcast regularly. Whatever your past looks like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't disqualify you at all. So your future is still, it's possible for it to be filled with purpose and value and meaning and hope. And that's what we pray for all of our listeners. So especially for this new year. So if there's anything that you'd like us to pray with you about, reach out, send a private message, comment, and we'd be happy to pray over your household for 2026.
We're going to do you next time.
Ugh. Okay.
And then if you guys want to hear all those other stories, let us know and we'll get into that too.
And if not, we'll just get back to the articles.
Get back to the articles. That's right.
fine, too. That's what we love.
Thank you so much, everybody.
We'll see you next time.
Live radio, local podcasts, the Frederick Podcast Network at listenfrederick.com.